Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews and another special ranking night. Tonight, I will be counting down my picks for the top 10 silent films. Now for this list, I am not going to actually go by my normal routine where I go by my notes or anything like that. I'm just going to go on the fly with this and tell you guys what my picks are. So, let's begin this list with number 10, which is The Cabinet of Dr. Calgari from 1920. Now this film I am the least enamored with out of all of these silent films. I think it could have been better. I would have much more appreciated it if the somnambulist in the story had been a female, because then it would have had that vibe of more of a Svengali-like feel for me, and I would have enjoyed that a lot more. But as it is, it's fair enough to include on this list. All right, so coming in at number 9, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1923. Now, there's been many film adaptations of The Hunchback, but I think other than Charles Lawton, Lon Chaney is the king of this character. And I think this is probably the best version of this story. All right, so coming in at number 8, we have Metropolis, which was released in 1927. Now, this film is just so cool because of the futuristic style about it that you didn't see much from any films in any era, let alone the silent era. So this was really ahead of its time with all the futuristic visuals that are in this film, and it is very well done. The story I'm not as much enamored with as much as I'm impressed by the visual style of this film, which is why it makes my list. Coming in at number 7, we have The Thief of Baghdad, which was released in 1924. Now this one, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was one of the kings of the silent era, and this film shows that. I mean, he does all sorts of inventive things in this film as his hero character as he tries to rescue his girlfriend slash the princess character in here. And it is quite impressive what they were able to accomplish in this time period with the visuals that they were able to do. Very similar to Metropolis in a way. Very, very well done film. All right, so coming in at number 6, we have The General, which was released in 1926. And this one, Buster Keaton. I've always liked him as a comedian and everything. I really love the Twilight Zone episode that he appeared in, which he time travels back to the silent era. That was really cool. And The General is one of Buster Keaton's best silent films of that era. And, you know, I mean, he didn't do much in the sound era, unfortunately, but this film was way ahead of its time for visuals and stuff. A lot of these that I put on my list are because of their visual style, because they didn't have anything as far as performance because we couldn't hear them. All right, so coming in at number 5, we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was released in 1920. Now, there's not much I can say about this one. I mentioned earlier about Svengali for The Cabinet of Dr. Calgari, and I really like John Barrymore. And in this film, even though you couldn't hear his voice and everything, he showed, as he did numerous times during his career, that he wasn't just a pretty face. He was a good-looking guy, John Barrymore was. And yet he took these roles where he would always do something where he would distort himself, make himself look hideous. And this is no different. I mean, as Dr. Jekyll, he's the good-looking, showing off his looks. But then as Mr. Hyde, he just goes over the top with his style and visuals, with his transformation and what he did with that character. And it's just one of the best. And that's why it makes my list so high. All right, so coming in at number 4, we have Les Vampires, which was released in 1915. Now this one is a French silent film, and it would have been higher on this list, probably number 1, had the writer of the novel that the film was based on not been such a stickler for doing everything that was in his novel and making it almost a 7-hour film. What we get in this, I really like. I just wish it was more condensed, because it is a very, very interesting and good story. I've done a versus night with this one, and there's a reason I really love this film, and it is just because of the visual style that it had and the performances and characters. Very well done. Coming in at number 3, we have Nosferatu, released in 1922. Now this one we are lucky to even get a chance to see because it was an unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Stoker's widow ordered every copy of this thing to be destroyed. Thankfully that didn't happen, and we can still watch it today, and we can get to see what weird and creepy performance that Max Schreck did in this film as the lead vampire, who isn't Dracula. He's Count Orlok. All right, so coming in at number 2, we have Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, from 1925. Now, this one isn't as visually as good and well acted as the version with Charlton Heston, but for what they had at the time, this thing is very good. Chariot race is better in the 59 version, but the chariot race in this one, for the time period, they did a damn good job on it. And the battle sequences in some of the ship battles that they have midway into this film are very brutal visual style that you did not get in the 59 version. Very gruesome visuals in this one. You couldn't have saw the later 30s and 40s films doing this, but in the silent era, they were willing to do more crazy stuff. And finally, at my number 1 spot is The Phantom of the Opera, which was released in 1925. Now, I mentioned Lon Chaney earlier with The Hunchback, but yeah, The Hunchback cannot compare to The Phantom. I mean, this was such a great character, and the way that he portrayed him through all of this hideous makeup that he did to himself, which when you read about it, it was painful for him in all that makeup. And yet he still performed and gave us this historic and mind-blowing performance in this. So, yeah, Phantom of the Opera had to be my number 1 silent film of all time. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my rankings here? Do you disagree? Let me know in those comments down below. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified about future videos just like this one. And while you're by the subscribe button, click that join button and become a Dark Knight fan. As a Dark Knight Fan Plus member, you have access to an area on the channel right now where you can request a movie, TV series, or ranking video. And when that review goes up, it will go up for all Plus members prior to it coming up on the schedule. So if you want to get interactive and help us to get more reviews on here that you might want to see, become a Plus member. And if you missed last week's ranking video, check out the link above. And if you missed any of our other ranking videos, check out this playlist and get caught up.